Okay, we all know Duolingo is addictive, right? That little green owl somehow has a grip on millions of people. But what if I told you that the reason we all think it's so sticky is actually wrong?
So, what is Duolingo's real secret? That's the big question. Let's dive in and uncover the invisible lesson that's hiding in plain sight. Now, the common wisdom is pretty simple. It's the game, right? Everyone just assumes Duolingo cracked the code by turning the chore of learning a language into something that looks and feels like fun.
But here's the thing, if it were that simple, wouldn't everyone have a hit app? Countless others have tried to copy the exact same formula. They've got the points, the badges, all of it, and they almost never get the same results.
So what's the secret ingredient? What are all these copycats missing? There's a hidden architecture that makes Duolingo stick when all the clones just fade away. And that's exactly what we're going to break down.
All right, so this brings us to our first big idea, the gamification illusion. It turns out this is about way more than just slapping a fun costume onto a boring old lesson plan.
And when we talk about that costume, you know what I mean? It's all the stuff you see on the surface. The points, those streaks we all obsess over, the leaderboards, the little happy sounds, and of course, the ever-present green owl. This is the stuff that's easy to see, and, well, it's really easy to copy.
And this is where a quote from our source material really just hits the nail on the head. Because what they copied was the costume, not the structure underneath. So let's go look at that hidden structure.
To really get what Duolingo is doing, we first have to talk about why traditional learning feels like such a drag. Let's call it the weight of a syllabus. You know this feeling? You open a textbook or sign up for a course, and what's the first thing you see? The whole thing. The syllabus, all the chapters, every single unit. It's like staring up at a giant staircase. And the moment our brain sees that, it subconsciously starts doing math. It's calculating the effort, the time, the sheer distance to the finish line.
And what's the result of all that mental calculation? You haven't learned a single word yet, but you're already exhausted. That huge scope creates instant resistance before you even begin.
And this is where we see Duolingo's real genius. It's what I call the one-step method. And the magic isn't in what it shows you, it's in what it deliberately hides from you. See, Duolingo never ever shows you the whole staircase. It just shows you one single step. There's no big syllabus, no, you are on Unit 7 of 34. You're just asked to do one tiny thing, and then the next tiny thing appears. And the impact of that simple design choice is huge, because you never see the full scope of the journey. You never feel that crushing weight. All that resistance we just talked about, it just kind of vanishes. Okay, so now that we get this hidden staircase idea, let's go back to those game mechanics, specifically streaks. Why do they really work so well? Well, it turns out it's not actually about motivation. It's about safety. This reframes everything. You probably think the streak is there to, motivate you to learn Spanish. But that's not its main job. Its real job is to take that giant, scary, anxious question, will I ever actually become fluent, and replace it with a tiny, simple, manageable one. Can I just keep the chain going for one more day? This all feeds into a really powerful concept called psychological safety. It's this feeling that the cost of trying something is super low, that it's okay to fail because it's private, you can undo it, and there are no real consequences. I mean, think about it. What happens when you get a question wrong in Duolingo? Basically nothing. The app shows you the right answer and you just move on. The owl doesn't judge you. It's no big deal. And this is maybe the single most important insight of this whole thing, that absence of consequence is doing more work than the presence of rewards. In other words, removing the fear of failure is actually way more powerful than adding a prize for success. But, and this is a really big but, this one-step model isn't some magic bullet for everything. It has very clear limits, and it is definitely not a universal solution for learning. Here's a simple way to think about it. The Duolingo model is brilliant for what you'd call modular learning, like vocabulary. Each new word is like a little building block that has value on its own, but it totally falls apart for systemic learning, like coding or, say, business strategy. A single piece of code without the context of the whole program is pretty much useless. For things like that, you need the map.
So when you're learning one of those more complex topics where you actually need the map, hiding it doesn't feel freeing. It just makes the whole experience feel pointless and aimless, like you're wandering around in the dark. And this brings us to Duolingo's final, and maybe its most clever, trick. The entire system is built to make you put off asking that one critical question. Is this actually working?
It delays that moment of doubt just long enough for you to build a powerful daily habit. By the time you even think to ask if you're becoming fluent, you're already 40 days into your streak.
So, what's the real lesson here? The big takeaway for all of us, whether we're building an app or just trying to learn something new. Let's call it the invisible lesson. It's not make learning fun or turn it into a game. The real lesson is this. Remove the moment where your user, or even you, has to stop and decide if they're capable of climbing the whole staircase. Make the first step so small, so easy, and so safe that they take it without even thinking about it.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. In your own work or your own life, what's a giant, daunting staircase that you're avoiding that maybe, just maybe, you could reframe as a single, simple